part of what we have been able to do is to actually even get ZNBC to recognize us, for instance, as people to talk to when we're talking about women in sport and to raise the issues. And several other media institutions have also been doing that. We also have a good relationship with the Ministry of Sport, and we are at the table now in terms of discussing different policies, in terms of discussing what progress we should be making as a nation. And that is a major step forward from when we just started, when there was nobody in particular to speak about these things. The other thing that we have observed is an increase in associations' willingness to at least admit and discuss the issue of getting more women and girls involved in their respective sport, which is lots of progress from where we're starting from. But it's still a long way to go. But also in terms of the public discussions around women's participation, we've also seen lots of activities going on in schools as well as in the general public and privately run activities. Oh, it's so heartbreaking because right now, the biggest thing for women's football on the calendar, the Women's World Cup, is happening right now in Canada, and that has been happening at a time when this situation has occurred with the FIFA leadership and with corruption and transparency issues. So obviously the world is looking at that and has been focusing on that and has missed out such a great deal on the build up to the tournament that's going on, which started on the 6th. And some people are not even aware that it's taking place. So that is just one of the things that such things do. They take away from the focus on women that's supposed to be there. There are many teams that are there. 3 African nations are there. There's Cameroon, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, playing wonderfully. But lots of people are missing out on seeing that. Our own referee, Gladys Leng, the Zambian, she's there as on the team of referees. And so it's one of the most immediate and visible impact that you can see of this scandal. But as to whether this is actually a surprise, I really don't think so, because I think football has always had such a conflicted relationship with women. So, for instance, one of the key messages in Blatter's campaign when he was coming on to be president was that the future of football will be feminine. And so he was coming on the platform saying, we're going to make sure that there's progress for women in sport. We're going to invest in trainings for women. We're going to invest in the league and all sorts of things. So saying that, and also seeing all these issues that arise around resources, which would actually help to move that ambition forward. It's quite a conflicted situation for football, but I really wouldn't say that this takes away from women's interest in playing football, because no matter what has happened at the high levels of power, no matter what has been going on at FIFA or at the FA, women have always been interested. Well, there's always an opportunity in a situation. Even if there's been an interest, for example, in getting the stadia, getting football house built here in Zambia, and getting the lots of conferences, coaches training, and resources directed to football for women in that direction, to what extent has that impacted positively for the long term for women in the first place, before we even speak about Blatter moving out of FIFA? First of all, we have to see what was already there before we can talk about what we're going to miss. And secondly, there is a positive side. If this restructuring is going to bring about more transparent and objective and equal opportunity for resource allocation for women, it might just be the break that women in football need, and the backing up of promises with resources. Because yes, there was lots of talk by Blatter about investing in women's football and also in Africa. But shouldn't that have happened anyway, no matter who it is? Because if you are an international federation, you've got the entire Africa as your members. Well, besides maybe two countries or whatever. But shouldn't then there be equitable allocation of resources despite what your interests are? And everybody who, being a head of FIFA is a political position. So everyone has their position of what their interests are. So yes, if Africa was his interest, that's wonderful. But the idea is to get it on the agenda of FIFA, despite who the political head is. The whole idea of benefits from an institution, as it is just from being a member of the International Federation, should not be based on what an individual who is at the helm thinks you deserve. It should be about what is in the long-term plan, which has been agreed upon by the International Congress that meets together and say, this is our 5-year development plan or our 10-year development plan of where football is going. So if the agreement is that we should get more women involved in football. That is where the resources should go, despite who is the head. As regards to Africa benefiting with or without Blatter, that's a totally political and advocacy issue. It speaks to the structure of the organization, because if it depends on who you have on the inside and who's thinking about you, then we're not going to progress very far. That is the situation not just for Africa, but also for women's football. Who is it who speaks within FIFA for women's football? Is it just the few women who are there in the lower levels? It should be within the plan. Just a few months ago, actually, the Brighton Declaration on Women and Sport, which speaks to advancing women in sport, FIFA signed that just a few months. They were one of the latest signatories to that declaration. And also, just 2013, I was speaking with Mr. Kananda about this. We had the FIFA community seminar here in Zambia, supported by FIFA and supported by all the stakeholders, to look at how do we take women's football forward. That has got nothing to do with who is leader of the association. That has to do with the institution itself as FIFA. What are your interests? What are the benefits that members should have? I mean, if Africa is one of the largest members of the federation, and they contribute those things, they participate in the leagues, we should be getting benefits from that. Part of our work in promoting gender equality and, of course, wanting to result in increased opportunities for girls and women, the lesson is that advocating for gender equality cannot go or happen outside of advocating for good governance, because that is about good governance. It is about transparency in terms of resource allocation, in terms of who is participating, who is benefiting, and who is at the table where the power is to discuss how these resources are allocated. So one of the lessons that we can draw from this is, in Zambia, some of the challenges that are there are that associations are not as structured as, say, the Football Association or as FIFA is, and they also face issues of transparency and corruption. But even being a structured organization like FIFA or the FA does not mean you will not have corruption and transparency issues. It's just the levels to which it goes and the extent and the amounts of resources that you're dealing with. And also, it's different levels of corruption. It's corruption of systems. It's corruption of resources. It's corruption of the culture that's in there, where people can look away when a plan is not being followed.